This is huge as the Spurs look to solve multiple roster problems. One writer links a perfect fit for the San Antonio Spurs moving forward. Plus, we have a big update on the Kevin Durant situation out of Phoenix, and the recent odds that highlight the Spurs are higher than we would have expected. We got to dive into exactly what is so perfect about the players linked to the San Antonio Spurs. One in the draft, one in free agency, and one via trade. A bunch of great stuff coming up on this episode of Spurs Digest. But before we get into the video, just a reminder, guys, 63% of you watching this video are not subscribed. We're just over 100 subscribers away from 6,000. So, hey, if you're part of that 63% and you love coming here every single day for your latest Spurs news, hit the completely free subscribe button down below so you can stay up to date. Let's get into the video, and we're going to start with KD, because of course we are. Because as much as I think a lot of you, and even myself, don't think it's a good idea to trade for KD, the Spurs keep popping up day after day in these rumors. So we got to cover them for you. I want to talk about this here, of course. After the firing of Mike Budenholzer, there has been more and more coming out about Kevin Durant, with NBA Central tweeting this out. The Suns are expected to work with Kevin Durant and his business partner Rich Kleiman to find Durant's next landing spot, per Shams Charania. And look, we know Kevin Durant is on his way out of Phoenix, and if it wasn't sure, it's certainly sure now. It's happening. He's gone. So of course, the betting odds come out and they say, okay, well, what's going on with KD? Let's have a look here. Recently, the Houston Rockets are the favorites to land Kevin Durant. Look, I know Houston, they're whatever. They got some young players, and they're a pretty good team. I think he'd be a fit there. The Warriors, of course, they were linked to him around deadline, but Durant said he didn't want to go there. He didn't want to be traded, so I'm not so sure about that. And then the Spurs have the same odds as the Warriors. The Spurs are tied for the second highest odds to land Kevin Durant. And look, I know we talk about him a lot, but the fact is, this is still here, right? The betting odds, they have a way of knowing some things that sometimes the fans don't necessarily know. And if we just have a look at Durant's stats again, 27 points per game, 6 rebounds per game, 4.2 assists per game. And without diving into the same stuff that I've talked about in a lot of other Kevin Durant videos that a lot of you guys like to talk about when it comes to Kevin Durant, objectively, good fit on this team. But we'd have to give up a lot for him. The thing is right now, though, with the turmoil in Phoenix, trade packages might be smaller than we think, right? Again, Durant is an absolute superstar, first ballot Hall of Famer, unbelievable player. His contract's too big, $56 million. It doesn't make any sense to fit onto this Spurs team right now, especially with the Spurs rumored to be after a couple other guys, some guys that we'll talk about in a second, one very interesting free agency candidate. But yeah, I mean, look, at the end of the day, Phoenix is in turmoil. It all depends on the leverage that Rich Kleiman and KD have in negotiating a trade out of Phoenix. So, I don't know, what do you guys think? Do you think this is realistic? Do you think the Spurs are actually just as likely as Golden State, the second most likely team to land him? Or do you think this is just more smoke being thrown out there because the Spurs want to go after, a big name because the media wants to pair him with Victor Wembanyama? Is this media influence? Is this actually influenced by what the Spurs are looking to do? I'd love to hear from you, but we're going to move on to a guy that I think a lot of us do quite like. A guy that I've had my eye on for a while, back when he was in Boston, when he was on Team France. That's our boy Guerschon Yabusele. Now, there was a great article on Air Alamo from Jalil Williams that I'll link down below. Please go read it. Great article. Not going to dive into a bunch of the quotes. I want you guys to go read Jalil's article. Give him the credit he deserves. But he mentions the Spurs' perfect offseason starts by upgrading 2 backups for 2 beasts. And the crux of the article was talking about getting rid of Biyombo and getting rid of Charles Bassey. And I've been a big Biyombo fan, I gotta say. He fits in well, though I think we can all admit he's probably not the guy that's going to be fitting long-term in the future for San Antonio. Charles Bassey, I love him, but like the article kind of says, his time might just be over. He's great to have, like the guy, but I don't know. He doesn't seem to be that solid backup that we want for a long time. But you can see here in the picture, he mentions a certain guy by the name of Guerschon Yabusele. Let me make this full screen again. Of course, he had a season with Philadelphia this year. He was actually shooting some threes, 38% from 3, 50% from the field, 11.6 boards, 2 assists. He plays his role absolutely perfectly. He's a somewhat mobile, fairly mobile. I mean, we've seen how athletic he is. We all remember that dunk he had on Team USA when he was playing with Team France and Wemby. 6'8", 29 years old. He's a power big man. He's a power forward, but he can play some minutes at center. And when you're looking at the San Antonio Spurs, you just have to say, this is a perfect fit next to Victor Wembanyama. We've seen them bounce off each other very well. You go from Wembanyama, who does quite literally everything on the floor, but he's not really that kind of bruiser, to a guy like Yabusele, who's a very competent rebounder, a guy that's going to get some offensive rebounds. He's going to be physical with other guys. He's the kind of guy that it's almost like a whiplash when you go from guarding Wembanyama to guarding Guerschon Yabusele, right? This is the kind of guy that can make quite a big impact for the Spurs if he were to come to this team. And in Philly, they got a bit of an interesting situation right now because they're looking at who they want to bring back for next year. Of course, Joel Embiid, he's locked up. He's an MVP candidate when healthy, but hey, that when healthy is doing a lot of heavy lifting in that statement by me. Let's be honest. They do have some good young guys, like Tyrese Maxey is awesome. Jared McCain, great. Paul George is looking like he is absolutely washed at this point. I mean, for his sake, I hope he can come back and play well, but it's not looking too great. And then they still got Quentin Grimes, right? This was the team option. They got to figure something out with him moving forward. He's been playing great. And then they have Guerschon Yabusele, who only made $2 million this year, but he's probably going to command a lot more than that this offseason because of his incredible performance. And I like it. That Team France connection in San Antonio, Guerschon Yabusele with Victor Wembanyama, I think it makes a ton of sense. And I want to hear your guys' thoughts because to me, if he's available at the right price, that's another big thing too, right? We gotta look at roster building long term. This could work well. If he wants to go back to Philly, hey, fine. If he wants to go back to Europe, maybe, but he knows he's in for a big time payday in the NBA. And some team looking at these numbers, looking at what he was able to do this year, you got to imagine some team is willing to pay definitely over $10 million per year for his services. I mean, again, like maybe not, but again, cap just keeps going up. 8 to 10 million, probably going to command more, let's be honest. So I don't know exactly what he's going to get. It depends on the fit on the team. If they think he's going to play a lot of minutes, because in San Antonio, he'll definitely be a backup, right? But I think he's probably okay with that role. But I want to hear what you guys have to say. Again, looking at this picture just gets me dreaming. I cannot wait to see what the Spurs are going to do with these backup bigs, because I kind of agree, like, Sandro seemed to indicate that he's on the way out. He put out something on social media saying, hey, it's been a great time, Spurs fans. Thank you for everything. He's probably gone. Bismack Biyombo, probably not going to be back. Charles Bassey, I can't rely on him for the long-term future. Something got to give. This makes a lot of sense for me, and I really, really like it. But I want to move on to one final thing, just a little final note to touch on at the end of this video. And there's been some talk about the draft, and also in Jalil's article, he mentions a certain draft target. Now, this does depend where the Hawks pick lands, because again, if they have some success in the playoffs, their pick's going to go down and down and down. But the player that they mentioned was Thomas Sorber, and he's an interesting guy. And I mean, look, if you follow college basketball, follow Georgetown, you know what I'm getting at with this. Thomas Sorber, I'll show you his strengths, his scouting report here. Fantastic post-up scorer, elite shot blocker, physical rebounder, finishes well at the rim. When I look at Thomas Sorber's strengths and you watch him play, even in that pick and roll game with Georgetown, he's pretty mobile. He's that exact kind of guy that you want to have on the Spurs as a backup for Wemby. Again, that kind of shot blocking, great shot blocking, physical rebounder, but he can also finish at the rim when you need him to. Like a younger Biyombo in a lot of ways, but I think he has a lot better offense because, again, his post-up scoring was quite good with that 1.025 points per possession on 122 post-up possessions. The only problem with Sorber is that he's mocked at a position where, like, we probably won't have a pick, right? The Spurs pick's going to be in the top 10. We don't know where it's going to be exactly, whether it's 8th or whether we jump up in the lotto. Who knows, right? But it's going to be top 10, and picking Sorber there won't make any sense. I know there's going to be a video either coming out before this or after this, I don't know when, from Brian talking about some other Spurs draft candidates closer to the top there. But the Hawks pick, again, is more likely to land right in the middle of that first round, where Sorber sometimes is mocked right there at the end of the lottery. I see him at the mid of in the first round and some mock drafts. Here at ESPN, he's ranked closer to the end of the first round. I've even seen some places having him in the second round. Don't really know where he's going to land, but at the end of the day, again, looking at these strengths, he does feel like another guy that makes sense for the Spurs. So I want to shout out again, Jalil Williams. Go read that article. Some great takes in there, I think, and I want to hear what you guys have to say, because there's a lot of options for the Spurs. And again, drafting a guy, sometimes they're ready to make an impact right away. Sometimes it takes a year or two. But hey, at the end of the day, the Spurs have a lot of choices, and it's going to come down to what RC and Brian Wright and the front office all want to do with this, because I'm just excited. I'm excited to see what this next chapter of Spurs basketball looks like. And I know you are too. And if you want to stay up to date on all your favorite Spurs news, hey, this is the spot to be, guys. We're about to hit 6,000 subs. We plan to be here every single day in the offseason. Hit the subscribe button down below so you don't miss a thing. I've been your host, Josh Gosse, and I'll catch you in the next one.